Do we all understand the difference between channel path and mixed path? Okay, so if I gain right a channel fader during a recording, what happens to the record level? Anything? Yeah, it does, because channel path is channel path to the multitrack. Okay? If I've got fader reverse on, that means the small fader is the path to the multitrack. Okay, so this would be the output section of the console feeding the multitrack. So if I'm in record mode and fader reverse is on, and I start gain writing one of the large lower faders, that will have no effect on my recording.
Just in the mix and the
Exactly. It's just going to affect our mix in the control room. Personally, and a lot of engineers will back me up on this, it's preferable to operate the console when you're recording in record mode with fader reverse on. That way when you go to mix mode, the large faders are doing the same thing that they were doing before. They're still controlling the mix in the control room. And also, here's another little point. If I'm recording with fader reverse off, quick quiz, which fader is my path to the multitrack now?
The big one.
The big one. And what happens if you bump some of these faders with your elbow or notebook or something during the recording session?
It's going to mess up the session.
It's going to mess up your recording.
So
okay?
that's the reason behind that thinking?
I personally, that most engineers will agree that it's best to have your channel faders. When you have this option, you assign your channel faders as the upper faders.
I guess when you're mixing, you don't have all those buttons in your way, too.
No, and there's more to this story, all right? Tons more. Now, we're just getting started here. But for example, you can use both of these faders at the same time and set up a stereo channel in a mix scenario. But we'll get to that later. Okay? So what I recommend you guys doing, anytime you're doing a recording session on the SSL, you operate it with record and fader reverse on. There's another good point that we brought up a while back. Another instructor, I laughed and agreed with this too. Is, you know, occasionally you might leave the room and leave your clients in the room just to listen to a playback. Right? All right, that sounded pretty good. Here, you can listen to this back. I'm going to go hit the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in a minute. And you got some bass players sitting there going, ooh, I want to turn my bass up. Right? You know, they'll do it sometimes. Most musicians pretty much figured out what the big faders are for, and plus you got the console label, right? So if you're operating in record mode with fader reverse on, even if your clients get in there and start playing with the rough mix, they're not going to ruin your record levels. Follow that logic? So it's just a lot safer in one respect to operate with fader reverse on, and it's also, it sets up a kind of a consistency for the engineer, because whether you're recording or mixing, the big faders are doing the same job all the time. All right, so that's my personal favorite. That's the way I like to run the board.
Most main boards have that option.
Your larger inline production consoles do, yeah. And SSL is pretty good about this. Neve, N-E-V-E, Neve is another top-of-the-line world-class console that uses the upper and lower fader system as well. So by the way, yeah, this is an inline production console. You've got the capacity for input, output, and monitor all in the same channel. So that's very similar to the Mackie board, which is also an inline production console. Okay, now, step 2 over here, disengage external to monitor. This is a button you're going to hit a lot. This button right here is labeled external to monitor, and it's kind of hard to read, so it's a big hint that it gets used a lot. And you know, you guys might as well get used to this, because I've worked in studios with SSLs and Neves where you can't read a lot of the buttons anymore. And you just have to assume those are important. Then you pull out the manual and figure out what the hell is that, okay? Because, you know, eventually this printing will wear right off of these plastic buttons. But it is embossed, just so you know, so if you catch the light just right, you can still read these. But, you know, what can I say? The more they get used, the more they wear out. This external to monitor switch basically switches between your mix bus, okay, and any external 2-track source or aux bus that you want to monitor in the room. So, simply stated, external to monitor is off, default mix bus. You want to listen to the mix bus, you make sure external monitors is off. You want to listen to a CD player or the 2-track or whatever else, or solo any aux bus outputs on the console, that's when you're going to press external to monitor, and then tell the console what you want to listen to. Okay?
So that's aux bus.
Yeah, anything labeled Q is an aux bus. And we'll get to that too eventually. So setting up for a rough mix, we start by setting our status control for mix or record mode. And then we make sure that we disengage external monitors so we can listen to the mix bus. You've heard us go on about the importance of comparative listening before. You know, if you got me, I'm all about this all the time, right? Because you need to acclimate yourself to the room and the monitors. Right? So you bring in some familiar audio productions, and you can have them queued up on a CD player, for example, and then simply switch between your mix and whatever you are playing back on a CD. You can even have a track and loop playback over there. So at any time, you can go and do comparative listening. Okay? There's a lot of arguments about this, but I'm pretty steadfast in my belief that to do comparative listening keeps you oriented to the room. You have a better idea of how the room and the gear you're using translates known audio productions. Right? And you all heard Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon at least once in your life, right? And maybe on a variety of speakers. It's still one of the standards for comparative listening. Right? You get an idea where's the low end at in this room, literally, and then you can mix with respect to that. Okay? So it kind of gives you a little real-world picture. The thing to keep in mind here is most comparative listening has been mastered, and what you're working on hasn't been yet. But it still will let you know whether you've got standing waves in the control room, or maybe monitors that you're unfamiliar with. You can hear how your favorite CD performs on these monitors. Right? It gives you a perspective of how to work. Okay. Number 3, select stereo in the monitor matrix. All sounds so important. Here's your monitor matrix. You've got 3 selections here, and only 2 we're using, mono or stereo. This mix bus is actually a 4-channel mix bus. This is actually a quad console. But we only have the the left and right front outputs hooked up to 2 tracks and monitors in this room. So in other words, you don't need to hit quad. We're not set up for quad in this room. When you're stereo, you go for stereo. If you want to sum that stereo bus in mono for a compatibility check, phase compatibility check, then you hit mono.
So most of the time it's going to be in stereo?
Yeah. Once in a while you want to hear is there phase cancellation? It sounds like there's a hole in the center of the image. Let's find out. Hit mono and see if you can hear some degradation to the sound. Remember, out of phase signals will tend to cancel, and in phase signals tend to reinforce. So remember that from intro to audio. So that's really important when you're using multiple microphone techniques or anything else for that matter. Okay. Okay, so at this point, what I haven't written here, and this is, assuming that you guys have the common sense and wherewithal, if you've got playback from either of the multi-tracks, all you have to do is start pushing up faders and you should hear something. Now here's another important little button, right here. It's called Channel Into Meters.